18-inch snow drifts and the like. But no, we appreciate you coming on and talking with us. And Congressman, as we chat here for this morning, I've got to ask you, what do you think about the Raiders GM hire and their coaching hire? What do you think, sir?
You know what? As the most avid Raider fan, I'm just happy that hopefully they'll have some consistency and continuity with their GM and then the new coach, Josh McDaniels. I've gotten to know Dan Ventrelli. They're now president of their operations on the football team. And I trust Dan and Mark Davis to make a decision. Now, Josh McDaniels does not have a good track record as an NFL coach, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
He was 2 years with the Broncos, and I think he was one of the folks along with John Elway that drafted Tim Tebow, and that didn't work out too well for him. So hopefully he's learned his lesson and they're going to turn it into a winning culture. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't like it. I have to be the GM. I don't know much about, but the coaching, Josh McDaniels, I wasn't a fan. Not when I know the Brian Flores thing is kind of blowing up here the last few days. I thought he would have been a really good candidate for the Raiders, quite frankly. I don't know why teams aren't reaching out to Eric Bieniemy. I got to say, Rodney, I didn't love it. I really didn't.
Yeah. And time will tell. I mean, I think a lot of it had to do with the GM feeling most comfortable with him as a coach.
Yeah, I think so.
I think Ziegler was their top choice. But if Ziegler's that good, I mean, they've had some busts when it comes to draft choices over in New England too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got Mac Jones; they did well with him, but what was it? Incal Harry, a wide receiver drafted 2 years ago. He's been a bust.
He's a bust. Yeah.
So you've got some busts, and the Raiders sure have their fair share of busts over the last few years.
It feels like we as fans oftentimes, Rodney, lament on the busts instead of the success stories of our drafts. But, all of that aside, you will see. We'll see. The Raiders are in it. Go ahead.
Who are you picking in the Super Bowl?
Well, you know what? I was just talking about this with my last guest. I just want a good game. I like Joe Burrow a lot. I really liked his story at LSU and, just the swagger he had there and the swagger he's brought to Cincinnati and the NFL. But I like Matthew Stafford, always been a big fan of his. I just want a good game this year, quite honestly. I don't feel strongly about one way or the other.
Really?
Yeah, I really don't. I mean, if Brady was in the Super Bowl, I've come to respect Tom Brady, but I would probably want whoever was his opponent to win, just because I get tired of watching him win all the time. But it has nothing to do with not liking Tom Brady or anything like that. So, what about you? Who are you going with this year, Rodney?
It's good to have new teams. It's good to have new quarterbacks. But I think I still got a little bit of bitterness of the Rams leaving St. Louis. Our family was season ticket holders, and I really like Joe Burrow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anybody that could come in and beat the Chiefs twice in less than a month, it just shows me that he may be the new quarterback of the future when it comes to the AFC.
And how
statistic?
How good are these young quarterbacks? Burrow, Herbert, Mahomes, Allen. These young quarterbacks in the league right now are just tremendous. Kyler Murray, forgot about him. I mean, these are some really good players.
They really are. Mac Jones too.
Yeah, Mac Jones.
You look at what's been going on in the NFL when it comes to kind of that youth movement. It's really changing the way the game's played too.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to have the tools around you. Look at what Jamar Chase has meant to Joe Burrow and the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
And it's helped lift up their defense. Their defense has played phenomenal the back half of the year. Although I will remind you, though, Seth, that the Raiders now possess the top 3 worst calls ever in playoff history.
The tuck rule.
Immaculate reception.
Yeah.
The tuck rule. And then the inadvertent whistle when they were playing Cincinnati just a few weeks ago.
Forgot about that one.
Brutal. I mean, everybody was standing around. The Bengals receiver caught the ball standing there. It wasn't like everybody was still moving because the play was still going on.
Yeah.
And they let it be a touchdown when it's a clear rule that once the whistle blows, play's dead.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
That was bad. And they would have probably kicked a field goal. The Raiders could have maybe tied. Just another one of those what if years. But these guys have some good teams. And what's also great is the two coaches. The coach of the Bengals, the coach of the Rams. These guys are the two great coaches too to get their teams there.
Two young guys, relatively unheard of. Sean McVay, when he first broke on the scene, really wasn't known, a known commodity. And I have to be honest, Rodney, I have no idea who the Bengals coach even is. So there you go. But at any rate, I don't think folks want us haranguing along here today all about football. Let's dive into the issues of the day. Congressman Rodney Davis, our guest on the phone here for this morning. And Congressman, I saw a piece recently about budget talks continuing in Washington, D.C. I know it's nothing new, but again, we could face a government shutdown if budget talks stall at some juncture here. What's the latest and what can you tell us about the latest in budget talks?
Well, number one, I appreciate you bringing politics back into it, but you might want to survey your listeners. They'd probably rather us talk football.
Well, yes. Okay, fair enough. That's a fair point. You've got me there.
But in all seriousness, it's like Groundhog Day out here, and I know that was yesterday, but it's Groundhog Day because we're back at a point where the Democrats in charge of the House have put us up against a fiscal deadline again. They want to continue to spend more than what we should, and in the end, they put up partisan bills that are temporary spending measures that don't get the support of Republicans, and they put themselves at a deadline. Now here we are. We've got the temporary package expiring. Federal workers across this country, our men and women in the military, are wondering what's going to happen because there's no consistency. And that's why we got to get a change. I don't think we'll have a government shutdown at this point, but I am concerned with how the Democrats have tried to fund our governmental operations. And remember, when we have a government shutdown, what happens is it costs more to reopen government. And rather than just continuing on at the spending levels we had. And here's the most ironic part about these spending discussions. The budget and the fiscal plan that Democrats are using right now are those that we developed under President Trump. So the more they continue to shirk their responsibility, the more we have a Trump budget and Trump spending plan continue to be in place.
Rodney, in budget talks and things, a frustration of a lot of people is, government continuing to spend beyond its means, and the national deficit continuing to rise, and debt ceiling talks, raising the debt ceiling, those talks continuing, all those things. How about that? The idea of government continuing to live outside its means when American families are asked to do just that, live within their means. How about those things?
Yeah, it's pretty frustrating. Look, we all came together and spent trillions at the beginning of the pandemic because we didn't know what effect it was going to have on our economy. But Democrats decided to go away from that bipartisan approach when we had hundreds of billions of dollars still yet to go out to our communities and our small businesses at the time. And what's happened is they've exacerbated the inflationary crisis we have in this country because of spending trillions more than we need to. Now's the time to step back. Now's the time to talk about what we can do to rein in spending, to address our debt, to address our deficits. And these are the discussions that I think you'll see Republicans continuing to push to the forefront.
How about inflation? And, of course, inflation, comes the talks of the supply chain issues and all of those things. What I hate asking this because I don't like the idea of, turning to government for solutions. But, what do we do about inflation, Rodney? What do we do about supply chain issues?
Number one on inflation, it's simple economic policy. You can't continue to spend more and not see an adverse impact when it comes to the inflationary crisis right now. And that's exactly what the Democrats always propose out here. It's, we'll deal with this crisis by spending trillions more. No, that's helping to cause the inflationary crisis. And you were right. Families are making less. Every single percentage point that inflation rises is a literal tax increase on every American's paycheck, because that paycheck does not go as far at the grocery store, at the gas pump, or at anywhere where they're spending their hard-earned dollars. Now, when it comes to the supply chain crisis, we're seeing the Biden administration try to gaslight the American people into thinking we don't have a supply chain crisis. What I'm trying to do is I've introduced a bill so that we can get the Department of Commerce to do a study to tell us what products have we not been producing in the United States that are critical to our supply chain. And my goal is to identify those products. And then my next step is to incentivize manufacturers to open companies and create jobs here in America that would address those supply chain issues.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, is the best first and second step we can do to bring some of this production back to the United States.
I'm sure you've seen this, Rodney, whether it's on social media or conversations you have in passing, but how do you respond to folks that say, like maybe, and I don't know if you've done this or not, but you and or your peers, out there talking about the benefits of the stimulus money and what it's meant to your constituents and things of that nature. And then, they say, but you voted against this. Why are you out there promoting what's, the benefits of this stimulus? How do you respond to those types of comments?
Well, we haven't been promoting, I'm going to promote any benefit to our community. When it comes to fighting the Democrats' attempts to defund our law enforcement, I'm going to talk about what we're doing to actually fund our law enforcement officers. I want to see progress moving forward. And I've got a clear record of being able to invest all throughout our communities, but we want to do it in a fiscally responsible manner. Now, a lot of times people will get caught up in this argument of, oh, you didn't vote for this particular day. Well, that I can go through a list of many of my Democratic colleagues who didn't vote for Republican infrastructure bills, but stood with me over the years, promoting some of the benefits of the packages that we put together on an ongoing basis. So my response to those accusations, it's 100% politics. And you know me, I'm used to that in this district.
Sure. I was just curious. I've seen a little bit of that here and there, so I appreciate you talking about that, Rodney. And I look at the clock, my friend. Let's take a time out. We'll come back with some more. Congressman Rodney Davis is my guest on the phone this morning. The WHOW Morning Show is brought to you by Peterson Insurance in Clinton, your Pekin Insurance agency on the downtown Clinton Square. And also coming to you live this morning on Facebook Live and our YouTube channel, WHOW TV, and live online all the time at DeWittDailyNews.com. More to come on the WHOW Morning Show.
Your own home without the maintenance. If you're 55 or better, a beautiful Liberty Village villa could be yours. This is Erin, and I invite you to come take a tour of our move-in ready villa. Click the Liberty Village icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Simply the finest.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
If you're looking for local hunting and fishing information, then join us for Central Illinois Outdoors with me, Jared White, Sundays at 8 a.m. here on WHOW. Every weekend, we'll offer detailed local fishing reports from professional guides. We'll swap stories with local celebrity sportsmen, and I'll invite you to share your stories as well. Central Illinois Outdoors with Jared White, every Sunday morning at 8 on all WHOW platforms and on demand at CentralIllinoisOutdoors.com. Brought to you by Bob Ridings in Pana and the Clinton, Illinois Chamber of Commerce and Tourism Bureau.
I'm Noah Atkinson, owner at Lincoln Printers and Sign Designs in Lincoln. We honor area businesses and nonprofit organizations by being the exclusive sponsor of the WHOW WEZC Lincoln Printers Business of the Month.
The Clinton Area Chamber of Commerce and Tourism Bureau has been the gateway for Clinton for decades. As a strong advocate for local business and tourism, the office promotes Clinton's chamber members, hotels and motels, as well as hosting a number of yearly events to attract people to the Christian County seat. They'll receive a $200 gift certificate good at Lincoln Printers and Sign Designs for being our WHOW WEZC Lincoln Printers Business of the Month. Nominate a business you'd like to see featured by emailing us at WHOW@randyradio.com.
Lincoln Printers and Sign Designs congratulates this local business for being part of our business community. And don't forget, when you need envelopes, wedding invitations, signs, banners, vinyl wraps, and more, find us online at lincolnprintersinc.com.
You're listening to The Morning Show, streamed by clicking the WHOW live icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show is streaming live on Facebook Live, as well as our YouTube channel, WHOW TV, and live online all the time at DeWittDailyNews.com. The Morning Show is brought to you by Peterson Insurance in Clinton, your Pekin Insurance Agency on the downtown Clinton Square. Rodney Davis, Congressman Rodney Davis, joins the program with us here today. And Congressman, let's talk a little bit about Ukraine and Russia and the happenings there. I understand President Biden has sent some troops to Ukraine there as support. How about this crisis, Rodney, and the kind of continued stalemate it seems to have? What do you make of it?
Well, I'm very frustrated with the Biden administration's approach to foreign affairs. It's so haphazard. As a matter of fact, I think it puts us in a tremendously weak position as a country. I've always followed the Reagan doctrine, and the last administration, the Trump administration, did too. And when you look at, I believe, how to deal with somebody like Vladimir Putin, who is not he has one goal in mind, and that's to try to recreate the old Soviet Union.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at some of the comments made by President Biden, like saying it's okay if Russia has a minor incursion into Ukraine, what does he mean by minor incursion? I mean, is it okay then to have a minor incursion into the United States? Is he going to give up Alaska or Hawaii or Guam or American Samoa to Russia or China? I mean, at some point, there's got to be accountability. The only thing these dictators understand is peace through strength. And now we have the president right now doing a press conference about how he took out a dangerous terrorist. Hey, I'm glad. Let's get rid of terrorists across the world. But if Donald Trump's administration took out a terrorist and there were kids that got killed, I'm sure the Democrats out here would be lining up to impeach him probably by that time a 10th time.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to Ukraine and Russia, my foreign affairs knowledge, Rodney, is admittedly not very strong. What is America's interest in this conflict? I mean, other than Russia continuing to seek out, restoring the old USSR. How about that aspect of this? What's America's interest in this conflict?
Well, Ukraine is a democracy. Ukraine is a country that has free and fair elections, and we always stand up for countries that have democratically elected leaders. Russia does not. Vladimir Putin has come in after Gorbachev, after Yeltsin, after others, and has decided to create a system that guarantees him to be in power in perpetuity. So Ukraine deserves our support because they have democratically elected leaders. Now, there are ways for us to be better allies of countries like Ukraine by not giving in and making comments about having minor incursions be okay, coupled with a lack of engagement on the front end in a peace through strength kind of manner with Vladimir Putin. It puts Ukraine in a very precarious position, and then it forces Biden and this administration to make decisions like having to send U.S. troops that, without a long-term plan. That's what scares me the most. Don't just put 3,000 troops close to Ukraine just for show to act like you're being strong. There should have been much more planning on the front end so you don't make political decisions rather than true security decisions.
From everything I've at least been informed of on the matter, it sounds like this could be, for Russia, this could be what perhaps Afghanistan was to America for a couple of decades. Do you think that's a fair correlation? Do you think that's a fair summary?
Ukraine could be like Afghanistan?
Yeah, like Russia's interest in Ukraine could be similar to America's interest in Afghanistan, where we're there for so long and there's so much bloodshed and what ends up coming of it. And, do you think that's a fair comparison, Rodney?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Afghanistan and Ukraine are completely different countries. Ukraine is a country with a thriving economy. I was there in 2017, and you saw numerous large cranes constructing large capacity buildings.
Mhm.
That's usually a sign of an economy that's doing well when you have those large, huge inner city cranes building skyscrapers.
Mhm.
Russia doesn't have that, and
Mhm.
Afghanistan certainly does not have that.
Right.
There's
Right.
a distinct difference. I think Russia would want Ukraine before the economic gain that they could get to the Russian Federation.
Sure.
And Afghanistan's more of a religious war where you have that long-term outlook.
Yeah, sure. Congressman Rodney Davis on the phone with us today. Congressman, thanks for your time as always. The morning show brought to you by Peterson Insurance in Clinton, your Pekin Insurance Agent.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. President Biden says an overnight raid by U.S. Special Forces has killed the